so we really gotta do this one, huh? You know what, I normally do these big flowery intros to try and hype up even bad comics. But, like, why even bother this time? It's Amazing Spider-Man number 26, you know why you're here, I know why I'm here, let's not waste any more time, let's hop into it, shall we? Alrighty then, so as we join this big arc finale, we finally circle back to the events of the first issue. Dr. Rabin has returned, now claiming to be more powerful than ever before due to his brief brush with death, and now he vows to finish his dark Mayan blood ritual by finally slaying Mary Jane and ascending to the level of godhood. Obviously, Spider-Man's not gonna let that happen as he still cares very much about Mary Jane despite the fact that their relationship has hit the rocks recently. Spider-Man's not alone either as he's assisted in the battle by the Gold Goblin, and also Miss Marvel Kamala Khan, who really has no reason to be in this battle at all besides the fact that she tried to infiltrate Osborn's newest company, and keep an eye on him for any villainous wrongdoing, even though seriously, has Kamala not been watching the news recently? Did she not see the events of Gold Goblin where Norman not only seemed to actively turn over a new leaf, but Spider-Man even joined him in the field? No, of course not, because if any of that happened, that means that this story and its ultimate resolution, which Marvel was all too happy to leak themselves, couldn't possibly happen. Seeing as the odds are quickly turning against him, Rabin decides to play his trump card. He's put a bunch of those weird little symbols all over New York City and is able to summon a small army of giant kaiju-sized Mayan monsters, much like the ones we saw ruling over that other dimension that Mary Jane and Paul were stuck in for 4 years. And hey, speaking of Paul, we still got some more flashbacks to deal with. It seems that even after Mary Jane's return, Peter refused to let any of this go. He barges into Mary Jane and Paul's house one day saying that he has a major revelation that Paul isn't who he claims to be. In truth, Paul never actually claimed to be anyone because he's purposely meant to be a blank cipher for the fan community to pour their own rage into. But yeah, what did Peter discover? Turns out, Paul's real name is actually Paul Jeremiah Rabin. Yes, that's right, he's Rabin's kid, born in this dimension and raised in the other one. Wait, seriously, is that why we never learned his last name for like all this time? Peter assumes this is a big gotcha moment. See, Paul's been lying to you, which means you have to come back to me. I'm not being weird and insecure, you're all being weird and insecure. Only Paul wasn't lying to Mary Jane. They spent 4 years together in that other dimension, so of course he opened up to her about his backstory. Mary Jane actually has a really interesting take on all of this, saying that Paul's own story kind of mirrors Peter, a smart guy beset by tragedy who despite all of it still tried to make a difference and fight back against evil. If anyone should be able to understand, it's Peter, but Peter is written to be the most ununderstanding, immature doofus in this storyline, so of course he's not going to understand. But wait, that's not the only big revelation, there's more. If Paul is Rabin's son, then what's the deal with the twins? Well, as Rabin explains, they too were part of his plan, invisible shackles put on Mary Jane to traverse dimensions. Yeah, it turns out the kids Mary Jane and Paul have been raising for these last 4 years aren't even real. They're all illusions created by Rabin as part of his big evil plan, which I guess means all those times he was defeated, he wasn't really defeated because this was the real plan. And you know, I'd probably feel bad about Mary Jane losing these kids that she adopted and treated as her own for so long if the twins were actually characters that I knew anything about. Seriously, I didn't even commit their names to memory. Also, if you think the idea of using dead children to create drama in this superhero story is a little distasteful, oh buddy, buckle in, cause you ain't seen nothing yet. Understandably, Mary Jane loses her absolute shit at Rabin and unloads on him with her brand new superpowers. Again, that feels so weird to say, Mary Jane with superpowers, but that's just kind of the world we live in right now. It's around this time too, the Fantastic Four also show up to reinforce Spider-Man and fight the monsters, them begrudgingly forgiving each other for all the bullshit that's happened over the last several issues. Which is hilarious to me because this whole story exists to explain the new Spider-Man status quo as to why he was in the outs with the superhero community, yet by the end of this story, he's back in the good graces of the superhero community. So what we basically have here is a big action-packed finale where the heroes decide to divide the workload. Rabin can now be in multiple places at once, and so Spider-Man deputizes Miss Marvel to protect Mary Jane. Because if Mary Jane dies, then Rabin's ritual will be complete and he'll, I don't know, level up, I guess. That sure is a hell of a lot of faith and pressure Peter is putting in Kamala, a young girl that he literally just met, more or less. If Mary Jane is so important, why can't Spider-Man watch her himself? Well, because he needs to go and have a big fight with Rabin, which, you know what, credit where credit is due, John Romita Jr. really excels in doing these scenes of uber violence. And watching Spider-Man pancake Dr. Rabin over and over again under a street lamp is actually pretty damn cathartic. Of course, Rabin takes this opportunity to monologue, saying that he is unto a god and he has seen the future, and in that future, Spider-Man cradles the love of his life dead in his arms. More on that in a minute. The Fantastic Four ultimately manage to defeat the giant Mayan blood creatures once they realize that they are essentially living beings of pure information, and that if they get their powers from glyphs and symbols, they simply need to hack the creatures to defeat them. In what is admittedly a pretty clever scene, Mr. Fantastic contorts his body into new shapes so that the Human Torch can burn those symbols into the creatures. I don't know what it says about this Spider-Man story that the best, most fun, most interesting aspect of it is a scene that didn't even involve Spider-Man. Oh, but I guess I've been putting off the inevitable for way too long now. We have to talk about the finale. Kamala puts Mary Jane in the back of an alley where she thinks she'll be safe, only for Rabin to come through another portal. Mary Jane is as resolute as ever, looking to get some payback on the man that just tore apart her happy family, but Rabin is too quick and Mary Jane ends up getting stabbed through the back. For a second there, it seems like Rabin has actually completed his dark ritual and will finally be allowed to ascend to the godhood he's only wanted. Here's the thing though. His god, the YF, calls him a fake and pretender before eventually he crumbles away into dust. Why is that? Well, that wasn't Mary Jane he actually killed. Miss Marvel had shapeshifted into Mary Jane and taken the killing blow for her, which is admittedly pretty damn generous for a woman she basically just met a couple hours ago, but hey, that's what a hero does, right? Understandably, Spider-Man is pretty horrified over the idea that this teenager just died in order to save the woman that Spider-Man loved so much. With her dying breath, Kamala removes her mask, revealing her identity to everyone else, because I mean, hey, you're dying anyway, so why keep your secret identity? Peter says that she did real good, and with her last ounce of strength, Kamala shares with Peter her own version of with great power comes great responsibility. Good isn't something you are, it's something you do. And you know what? I just gave John Romita Jr. some credit as an artist, but oh man, should he not have handled this big dying scene here. All the other super people assembled at this meeting here look like they're supposed to be having some sort of crazy emotional reaction, but mostly they just look like they're having eye strain. And it's on that incredibly disappointing, disheartening note that this issue of Spider-Man comes to a close. So, you know, as a comic book personality on YouTube, I have always prided myself on being even-handed, open-minded, not taken to reactionism or anti-fandom or any such nonsense like that, but oh man, did this story, and especially this finale here, really test me in that regard. Why did this story need to be told, and especially why did it need to be told like this? No one ends up looking good in this one, everyone comes away weaker. It's a story that both finally attempts to explain the long-standing mystery box and new status quo that Spider-Man has been dealing with since the Zeb Wells run began, and yet by the time it's all over, completely upends and changes it again. If they just wanted to break up Peter and Mary Jane, there had to have been a better, easier way to tell this sort of story. I've been a Spider-Man reader for a long time, I've seen all the highs and the lows, I was there for the original One More Day, so it breaks my heart to see the Spider-Man office basically make the same mistake all over again, but actually somehow find a way to do it a little worse this time by killing Miss Marvel, a character that they introduced into the Spider-Man book seemingly for the sole purpose of killing her now and making Peter sad. Because that's what Peter Parker really needed at this point in his life, the death of a teenager on his conscience, a hero who basically did a better job of embodying the Spider-Man ethos in the modern era than Peter has in a long time. It feels gross, it feels wrong, it feels forced and inorganic, and again, make no mistake, Marvel wanted you to know they were doing this before they did it. Which to me just reeks of desperation, like they don't know what to do to actually make people want to read Spider-Man anymore, so the only thing they can think of is outrage, to try and drive engagement or maybe sell a couple more pre-orders now that we know this is the big death of character moment. A turn like this only continues to fuel my theory that Zeb Wells is just putting his name on this comic and that Spider-Man editorial are the ones who are actually writing it, because only completely creatively bankrupt editors and suits and bigwigs and higher-ups could ever think any of this was a good idea. And no, I don't think Miss Marvel will be dead forever. I'm sure she'll be back sooner rather than later. I hope not with her new MCU powers, as everyone seems to think is gonna happen. And maybe I'm just being a little too optimistic, but maybe now that they finally got all this bullshit out of their system, maybe Spider-Man can go back to actually feeling and reading like Spider-Man again, but I'm not getting my hopes up. Overall, I would give this one a 2 out of 10. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going back to replaying the PS4 PS4 Spider-Man game, and I gotta pre-order my tickets for Across the Spider-Verse. Because there is in fact a lot of good Spider-Man out there right now, it's just not in the Amazing Spider-Man book. Hey there everyone, it's your pal Cape Joel again, and if you're seeing my face right now, that means you watched to the end of the video, and I'll always be grateful for that. Retention helps in this crazy YouTube game, and so does becoming a patron. If you head on down to the description, you can find a link to my Patreon page. Recently just redid all the tiers, a lot of cool stuff offering up there, exclusive commentaries, exclusive polls, behind the scenes concept art for Capes and Quest, that's the brand new D&D show I've started soon. Never been a better time to become a patron. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month and help the channel grow and, help me continue to deliver content like what you just saw. So I want to thank you all, and I will see you again next time. Bye-bye.